So in this video, I'm going to be looking at this module, the Dual Looping Delay by 4MS. I've actually got a hardware version of this module as part of my modular system. This modular system is on extended loan from a good friend of mine who built it for me to see whether I would like modular, so I could try out modular. And one of the modules he included was the dual looping delay. It's a really great module. It's very deep. Essentially, you have two delay lines and they can go from very, very short delays, and you can use that for all sorts of resonant filter effects, Karplus-Strong. You can use this as a voice as well. You can do looping with it, and you can also use it for complex delays. But as well as the hardware version, there is a software version of this available for free in VCV Rack. So in this video, I'm going to go through the basic functionality of the module using the hardware module, and then we're going to move over to VCV Rack, where I'm going to build a patch that involves multiple copies of the dual looping delay. And then we're going to connect that patch up to my launch control MIDI controller so that we make this complex delay machine. I'm going to first build it in the standalone software, which is free. And then I'm going to do a version in Ableton Live using the pro version of VCV Rack, which can work as a VST. So we're going to do those three versions, and we're going to explore a complex delay machine. And then I'm going to make the VCV Rack project and the Ableton project available to download on my Patreon. So if that sounds like fun, then stay tuned. So if you like what I do on this channel, then there's a number of ways that you can support the channel. You can click the join button down below, and for a couple of quid a month, you'll get all of my videos a few days earlier than everyone else. That's a great way to support the work that I do. Another way you can support me is by going to my Patreon. If you sign up for the Patreon, again, for a few pounds a month, you will get all sorts of things. You'll get my videos early. You'll also get downloads, like in this video, there's going to be downloads of the files that I make, unreleased music, photography you can use in your own artwork. There's all sorts of things on Patreon. You can also go to my Bandcamp page and you can listen to, buy, download all my music and field recordings. If you sign up to Patreon, you'll actually get 75% off all of my catalogue at Bandcamp. So you can get all my music for just a few pounds if you sign up to Patreon. And you can also go to Substack, where I've got a newsletter where I write about everything that I'm doing. So it really helps if you do one of those things. So in today's video, I'm going to be looking at the dual looping delay from 4MS. This is the hardware version of the module. It's been out for quite a long time, I think about 8 or 10 years, something like that. You've got two delay lines in here. This whole left-hand side is the one delay, and this right-hand side is the second delay. And they're exactly the same. They can be used together in lots of different ways. And this is actually a very deep module. It does lots of different stuff. And I won't go into everything. I'll quickly touch on stuff. You could spend ages talking just about this module. It does all sorts of interesting things. So a quick overview of the setup that I've got. I've got my guitar, my Yamaha Pacifica, here it is, 112V in old violin sunburst. So everything's coming from the guitar today. That's running into my Boss RC600 looper just to colour the tone a bit. Got an overdrive, an EQ and a compressor on that. That goes into my mixer, which is here, my Tascam Model 12. The guitar is feeding into the mixer, and then using the two auxiliary sends, I'm able to send the guitar sound to both of these delays here using the aux sends on the mixer, and then they get fed back into their own channel so that I can record the delays separately. So it's a simple setup, guitar into mixer, auxiliary sends into the dual looping delay back into the mixer, and then I'm recording all of that in Ableton. So this is the sound of the guitar. The guitar's going into Ableton, and then it's got just a little bit of Valhalla reverb on it. So we've got... That's our guitar. It's a very versatile delay. You can go from incredibly short delays that can create resonances, Karplus-Strong type synthesis. And I'll demonstrate that in a bit. But it also, at the very long delays, it can go up to, I think it's just under 3 minutes per channel that you can record on this. So you can go from incredibly small to 3 minutes. So the range is quite incredible, really. And then the way the delays work together, there's all sorts of options. We've got one delay coming in here. So the way the time works is somewhat complex in that you've got this clock here. You can use this ping button here to get a basic clock timing. So at the moment I've got it, if you go, you can get it quite fast, or you can just leave it and then it'll go really slow. So that's the slowest it goes. And then this clock is then altered by the time knob and the time switch. So here in the middle, it's 1 to 1 on this knob. So it goes from, this is the beat here. And at 1, it's one of those beats. And then it goes up to 16, and it's 16 of these beats. So it's pretty long at that point. And then if you want to modify the way this 1 to 16 knob works, you can go to an 1/8. So this will be an 1/8 of that beat. And then if you go up to 8, this will be that beat, the same as the beat, and then this will be 2 beats. So that essentially goes from an 1/8 of a beat to 2 beats. In the middle, it goes from 1 beat to 16 beats. And then the top one adds 16. So it then goes from 17 beats to 32 beats. You have a feedback here, so that's feeding the recorded sound back into the input. And this can go up to 100, so it will never fade. Or you can go higher than 100. So you've got to be careful with it because it can feed back and get quite loud. And then here you've got a dry and wet mix between your input and your delay. And you've got the amount of dry mix that you're feeding into the delay. So we've got it on a normal kind of timing at 1 here in the middle, and we've got feedback of 50%. And now we're going to feed in the sound into the delay. So it's a nice digital delay. If we put it up to 100% now, then you just get a loop that will just go on forever. So let's get it a little bit slower. So if we slow this right down, just to see how slow it will go, press that once. Turn it up to 32 times the length. Then this is the full length that you can get in this. So while we're waiting for that to come round, just to show how long it is, I'll just take you quickly through these other things. You've got a reverse button, which you can reverse the way it's recorded. Not going to use that today. And you've got a hold button as well, which allows you to turn it into a full-on looper, and it doesn't accept any more input. So it just plays the loop over and over again. So you can do all sorts of things with those, but I'm not going to use the reverse and in the hold today. And then other things you can do, there's actually you can tap this output here, and there's a send and return. So if you want, you can send the delay into other effects to color the feedback that goes back into the delay, and that way you can produce all sorts of effects. So I'll show you that as well in a minute. I've got a filter set up here that I'm going to run on the send and return just to show you how you can darken the returns. And also, if you feed in a very high clock with an LFO, I've got an LFO here, feed in a very high clock, that's when you can get into the Karplus-Strong resonating synthesis. So we'll have a quick go at that as well. As you can see, it's taking a very, very long time to come round. There we go. That's our loop. So you can see it goes from very, very short to very, very long. You can clear the loop by holding these two for 2 seconds. There we go. So let's get back to a reasonable amount of time. See what we've got. Okay, so that's our delay. That's basically what you've got. So that's basically what you've got in terms of delays from very, very short to very, very long. And you've got that again on the other side. So you've got 2 delays that do exactly the same thing. Now you can feed these in different ways. So you can, if you want, have a single input, not a second input, and then that will be normalized across to that input. And you can have 2 delays, different delays, that come out of these with a single input. So mono in, stereo out. Or you can have 2 monos in and 2 monos out, which is what I'm doing. But if we turn on this delay as well, and we make it a different length. So these are set the same. Let's turn that up to a 3 there, 3. Same kind of feedback. Now we put the delay feed in. So now we've got 2 delays. This one is longer than that one. So we'll see what we get here. So in the left channel here, I've got the quicker delay on the left-hand side, and in the right channel there, I've got the longer delay. So you can see you can do all sorts of multi-tap delays with the dual looping delay. So you can do that kind of normal multi-tap delay type thing, and you can, get very creative with that. There's all sorts of possibilities. And if we turn down this second delay, you can also then, as I say, if you feed in an incredibly fast clock rate, so I'm using an LFO here, and it's going very, very fast. And now we get a very short delay. And it starts to give you like a string resonance when you increase the feedback. So that's without it. And then when you feed back this very, very short delay, you have to be careful because it will feed back. And then if you change the speed of the LFO, you get lots of nice effects. So if you modulated that and you modulated this feedback, you could see you could get quite a lot out of a single note. Look at distortion. There's a lot of nuance available in sending an LFO into this. So you can get some very beautiful sounds, tones out of this module with an LFO into the clock. I think that would definitely warrant some more exploration and possibly its own video, to be honest, just working with that function of this module. So we've got that very short delays, we've got the very long delays that we did. And then also just a quick note that you can send that into other effects and return it into the input. So you get a send and return. I've got that running into a filter, so it should just slowly take the top end off the returns and you get a kind of tape darkening effect. So let's give that a go. And obviously you can just go on forever with modular and this type of send and return on a delay like this. You could design all sorts of effects similar to complex pedals. Depending on what you've got, you know, it's endless. So that's how this works. I'm going to play a little bit now. Dual Looping Delay from 4MS. It's a fantastic module, capable of all sorts of things. You can build whatever delay you want with these. This is not a thorough walkthrough of the module, just a quick walkthrough. In the next part of the video, I'm going to look at the software version of this that is available in VCV Rack. You know, this module costs a few pounds, whereas VCV Rack and the version of Dual Looping Delay in that, it's all free. So we're going to have a look at the software version, and then we're going to do some fun things with that, because obviously the sky is the limit when you don't have to buy lots and lots of these modules. You can use as many as you like. So that was the hardware version of Dual Looping Delay. It's a great module. It definitely warrants more time spent with it. So that's what you can do with a single module. But it is actually quite an expensive module. It does cost a few £100s. And so I came up with an alternative that allows you to still use the Dual Looping Delay. So this is VCV Rack. A lot of you probably know about VCV Rack. It's a virtual modular environment. So it runs on, I think, PC and Mac. It allows you to create modular environments from a huge range of modules. There's a free version, which has all the full functionality, absolutely hundreds of free modules. And some of them are from quite big hardware module manufacturers. So we've got here the Bafako modules. So they're well-known hardware module manufacturers. They also do a range of their modules in VCV Rack. Quite a few manufacturers do. And one of the ones that does is 4MS. So the Dual Looping Delay is available here as a VCV Rack module. So I have built a patch using the virtual version of Dual Looping Delay, and that's what I'm going to run through the patch, and I'm going to show you how I've used 4 dual looping delays that I've then mapped all these controls to my launch control here. So we've got the time, the feedback, and the delay feed, the amount going into the delay, and the volume available on 8 channels here. And I've called this my delay machine. Delay machine. So it really is quite incredible what you can do with VCV Rack. And VCV Rack is well worth getting hold of. The free version has a huge amount of functionality. You can do all sorts of things with it. It's a fantastic piece of software for free. Whether you want to get into modular or to use it in conjunction with modular, or as I'm using it here, as an effects unit for my guitar. There's all sorts of uses for it. And then there's a paid version. There are a few more modules in the paid version, but the main difference is that you get 2 VSTs with it as well, which allow you to run VCV Rack within your DAW. So in my case, Ableton, open up your patches within a track in your DAW, which is absolutely fantastic. I use it like that. I actually do have the pro version. It costs about £100. But it's well worth it to be able to integrate VCV Rack into Ableton. But this is the free version that I'm using here, and I'm going to take you through how you can build this delay machine for free. So the whole thing's free. So let's have a look at how the patch works. So first off, we've got here an audio module. I've got my Tascam Model 12 here. Guitar's going into the Tascam Model 12 on track 9 and 10, and then in this audio module I've just selected the Model 12, 9 and 10 in. And so I've just got the left channel here coming out into this little switcher here. You don't really need this. I could just come straight out into the left, straight into all of the inputs into the delays. But because while I was testing it, I wasn't using my guitar, I was using actually a voice within VCV Rack. This is a version of Mutable Instruments Platts, which comes for free with VCV Rack. It's called Macro Oscillator 2. So I was using that and plugging that in, and it was easier for me to plug that in to one input rather than to have to route them all in and out. So to switch between the guitar and the internal voice was easier. You don't really need this switch, but it's quite handy. So this is by a company called Bog Audio. They make lots of nice, very compact little modules. And this is just an 8-channel switcher. So you can turn all these buttons on and off. But I've just got them all turned on because it essentially gives me a 1-in, 8-out connector. And then each one of these is connected into a channel on 4 dual looping delays. So this is exactly the same layout and functionality as the hardware module. But obviously, I've got 4 of them now, which would cost you quite a lot of money for dual looping delays. And then the outputs are all going into this mixer here. This is the Mix Master. This is from MindMeld. And this is a 8-track mixer here. In fact, it's 8 stereo tracks, so it's like a 16-track mixer. And then there is an extra module that you can attach to it, which is an auxiliary module, so you can do sends and returns. And I've actually got that rigged up to the Plateau, which is a reverb module. So we've got the 4 delays, which have 8 delay lines going into the 8 channels on the mixer. They're all just turned up in this auxiliary to send through the reverb, just to get a nice bit of reverb on them. So in terms of the clock here, the pings, I've got this module called Clocked, which is from Impromptu. And this produces a clock sending the pings to all of the clocks on the dual looping delay. So they're all synced together. When I turn this on, they're all now synced together. So the main out of the mixer here is going into another audio module. These are the built-in modules of VCV Rack, these audio ones. That's an Audio 2, and this is an Audio 8. So this audio here is just going straight to the output of the MacBook Pro. Then we've got a couple of other little modules in here in this patch. So we've got this Polyrec module by, I think it's Nisthi. This is great, this little Polyrec, because out of the Mix Master, there is this output here that allows you to have a polyphonic output of all 16 tracks, so 8 stereo tracks, in one cable. And this allows you to put that 16 tracks into a simple recorder here. So you can record the output of all the 16 tracks. And then in the settings of this module, you can choose whether you want it attenuated, the type of encoding. So I've just got it on 16-bit. And then whether you want to save separate wave files for each channel, which I've got it on. And then where you want them to save, you choose the destination. So this is a great module because without a DAW, it allows you to, in a setup like this, record each of these mixer tracks separately to its own wave file. The only other module is this MIDI map module, and this is the module that allows me to map lots of the controls to my launch control. So you see all these controls here, they've got little yellow dots next to them. They're all the controls that have been mapped. It's very easy to map controls to a MIDI controller. Click this mapping, which is at the bottom of the list of things that you have mapped. And then when you move something, it shows you the control number. And then when you click on something in the interface, it maps that together. It's very responsive. Each of the times I've got mapped to this top row of buttons. The feedback, I've got that mapped to the second row, and the delay feed, I've got that mapped to the third row, and then the mixer amount, I've got that mapped here, a volume in the mixer. So it mirrors what I've done in the patch very closely. So that is essentially the patch. To start off, I've got the delays all set to different lengths here. Finally, on this 8th delay here, I'm using that as my dry channel, this 8th delay. This one, the mix is fully dry. All the others are fully wet. All of these mixes are fully wet. So we're just hearing the delay on the first 7 channels. And then on this 8th channel, it's not feeding into the delay line. We're just hearing the dry. So this acts as a monitor for my live guitar. So that is the patch. That's how it's set up. And now I'm just going to play with it. I'm going to have to turn the screen recording off, and I'm probably going to have to turn a couple of the delays off as well, because my poor old MacBook Pro can't cope with screen recording, running 4 copies of the dual looping delay and recording simultaneously 16 WAV files. It can't quite manage that. So this one here, we'll set that to 1. We're going to set this one to 3. And we're going to set this one to 6 initially. So we've got a 1, a 3, and a 6. We'll see how that goes. And these are synced at the moment because they're taking the clock input. So they're completely synced, a 1, a 3, and a 6. Okay, so I'm going to start the recording. And now I'm going to have to stop the screen recording and see if my CPU can manage it. Okay, so back on here now, on channel 8, this is my dry guitar sound. Put the feedback up just over half, and then we feed the guitar into the delay feed. So that's our first delay. And obviously, if we turn this up to 100%, then we've got a very short Frippertronics type loop. So we've got this nice little chord going on, and then we can play some notes on the longer delays. So take that out, put this one in. This is a 5, was a 6. We'll see what we've got here. So we've now got 3 loops going. This one here is on a 1-bar loop, and they're all set now to 100%, so they're never dying out. This is set on a 1-bar loop. This one here is set on an 8-bar loop, and this one here is set on a 6-bar loop. So they're phasing 1, 8 and 6. And then a trick that I like to do is turn off the clock and then try and match by hand the tap. And then because you get a little bit of variation in your clocks that you've made by doing a tap delay, you start to get much more interesting phasing and little bits and pieces. So that patch that I've built in VCV Rack 3 with the 7 delay lines and a dry guitar in there, that will be available to download on my Patreon. And that means you can have a complex delay machine using multiple copies of the dual looping delay for free. And there's so much scope in this. I mean, the main problem that I'm having is that my MacBook Pro is a few years old, can't really cope. So I'm going to actually switch over to rebuilding this patch in Ableton itself. And so then I can demonstrate what you can do with this. That's demonstrated how the patch is set up and how you can do it without a DAW. And now I'm going to just see if I can get the CPU usage down by using VCV Rack Pro. So for this last part of the video, I've rebuilt the delay machine using Ableton Live and the VST version of VCV Rack. The VST is only available in the Pro version, which costs about £100. And as I demonstrated before, you can do this without the Pro version, but I was having quite a lot of trouble with my MacBook Pro. It's quite an old MacBook Pro, 7 years old now, and running all the delay modules plus the multi-track recorder in VCV Rack and screen recording it with OBS at the same time was just a little bit too much. I took out some of the delay plugins, but it still wasn't quite enough. I did manage to record some, but it was quite glitchy. And for some reason, it seems to be more optimized when I'm running it in Ableton. It's slightly more complex doing it through Ableton, but it works the same. 7 delays, and then I'm using this just as my dry channel for the guitar. So it looks quite intimidating because we've got a lot of channels here, and these are all the sends. There are 7 return channels, send and return channels. So each one is the same. And when you get VCV Rack Pro, you get 2 VSTs. So you get an instrument and an effect. So here, obviously, I'm using the VCV Rack Effect VST. And within there, you can load your own patches, or you can just build a patch that is saved with the Ableton file. So that's what I've done here. I've got a very small patch. I've actually got the MIDI to CV module here in order to run the patch in time with the main clock of Ableton. So if I move that speed, then this will move as well. I haven't actually got these turned on at the moment. I've just got them all set to 120, but it shows you that you can quite easily sync these patches to a single tempo in Ableton. So each of these return channels has a dual looping delay module in it. It takes the audio in from the DAW and it processes it through the dual looping delay and then sends it back out. So it's a very simple patch. I've got some of the controls mapped to my launch control. So to do that, it's pretty simple. You hit the configure button on the plugin, and when you move one of these buttons, it appears in this list. So I've moved the time and I've moved the feedback, and they've appeared there. And then when I press this MIDI button here, I can click on one of those, move a button on my MIDI controller, and it maps the button to that parameter. So it's as simple as that. It takes quite a long time, obviously, to set this up. 7 copies of that, each one mapped to a different channel on the launch control, and then the feed into that delay is done through the send. So I've mapped this third button here to the send. So the guitar comes in and it sends it to 1, it sends it to 2. We've been through what the dual looping delay is capable of. I've got the beat set to 120. You can go from 1/8 of that up to 32 times that. And obviously, if you change the tempo of the song right down, you can make it even longer, or right up, you can make it even shorter. So let's start to make some sounds now. We'll start recording, and my CPU seems to be holding together, even with my screen capture on. I'm going to set it up now with a range of delays, and then try and build some tracks with it. On the first delay, I've got a short delay, 5/8. On the second delay, I'm at 1. On the third delay, I'm at 2. Fourth delay, I'm at 3. Fifth delay, I'm at 5. Sixth delay, I'm at 8 beats. And the seventh one, I'm at 11 beats. I have no idea how all of these will work together, but I'm just going to try and build something. That's the fun of the delay machine, is that you can pick a range of delay times from very, very small to incredibly long, and then you can attempt to build something out of it. Phasing, you could do it all in sync if you wanted, or you can do crazy phasing Euclidean delays. So that's the fun of it, and I'm going to see if I can make some nice sounds with it now. So I hope that was interesting for you. It really is quite amazing what you can do with this module, both the hardware version, but also the fact that you can get this module for free in VCV Rack, and then you can build a crazy delay setup like this is amazing, really. And I think the possibilities of what you could do with this delay setup and using a MIDI controller like this are endless. And I've only really just started to use it. So I'm definitely going to be using it a lot more because I think there's a huge amount of potential in this, this type of setup. If you want the VCV Rack project and the Ableton project that I made for this video, then you can get them if you sign up to my Patreon. So be sure to support the channel by joining Patreon, visiting my Bandcamp, going to my Substack, all of those good things. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.